Because at interim stage, even with a small sample, you're looking at a company that has produced surprisingly strong and consistent clinical signals, zero adverse event, every arm beating control. For investors who understand that early clinical consistency in a rigorous trial is rare and meaningful, the risk reward at this stage is interesting.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Genflow Biosciences CEO, Dr. Eric Lyra. Eric, very good to speak with you, and out with really good news this morning. Tell us what you announced.
Yes, we published this morning preliminary results from our SLAP trial. SLAP trial, you remember, a randomized blinding clinical trials in 24 H. Beagle dogs. This is only an interim analysis. The trial is still ongoing, but what really surprised us was the strength of the signal we're already seeing. At this early stage and with a small cohort, every treatment group was outperforming the control and across multiple endpoints.
Eric, how significant is the data really if you've only done it on 24 dogs?
Yes, that's exactly the right question, and I want to be straight about it. 24 dogs, 6 per arm. This is a small sample size, and we must be appropriately cautious about drawing firm conclusion. But what struck us is that despite the small number, the signals are remarkably consistent. Survival, muscle mass, frailty, quality of life, all moving in the same direction across every treatment group. In clinical science, such a consistency across endpoint in a small sample is often very encouraging early sign.
So why are you so excited if the sample is so small, Eric?
Yes, excited we are because when you see this level of consistency this early, it tells you something real is happening biologically. We were not expecting signals that clear at the interim stage. Frankly, we were surprised. That doesn't mean we get ahead of ourselves. The trials continues. The sample size remains small, and we need the full data set. But a strong interim result in a small, rigorous, randomized trial is exactly what you hope to see.
So what data is still to come then, Eric?
Quite a lot, actually, and this is important. The trial continues for a further 90 days after the dosing period. That following up phase is important because it will tell us something that the interim simply can't. How durable are these effects? Does the therapy hold up over time once the dosing is complete? That's a question that really matters commercially and scientifically. On top of that, we're still waiting for the methylation clock results. The methylation is the determination of the biological age at the molecular level. It's quite important. And also a comprehensive muscle biopsy histology, looking at how the muscle fiber respond to the therapy.
Eric, what's the commercial relevance of these interim results?
Aha, yes. Uh, quite strong, in fact. Even in an interim analysis, this is sufficient to advance partnership conversation meaningfully. The animal health doing due diligence on our program now have randomized clinical data, not just preclinical work. And this data is showing safety, tolerability, functional improvement. That changed the conversation. As we are actively engaged with potential partner, this strengthens our negotiating position considerably.
So why should someone consider investing now before the full results, Eric?
Yes, of course, I will recommend. Why? Because at interim stage, even with a small sample, you're looking at a company that has produced surprisingly strong and consistent clinical signals, zero adverse event, every arm beating control. For investors who understand that early clinical consistency in a rigorous trial is rare and meaningful, the risk reward at this stage is interesting. That said, we are appropriately cautious. It's an interim, it's a small sample. The trial continues for another 90 days. But I won't pretend I was not genuinely surprised by how strong and consistent the signals already are. That's what science feels when something is really working. Now, the science work, the data is here. Now we go and build a partnership that turns this into a business.
Eric, congratulations on this latest milestone. I hope you'll continue to keep us updated with the progress.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Eric Lyra, the CEO of Genflow Biosciences.